Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is David Brooks, the Cadillac Counselor, coming at you with some more information for the new BOE that will be elected coming in November. Now, we all know that the primaries was a tough time. I know for me, it was a lot of running, it was a lot of campaigning, and just a lot of marketing, doing things that I never thought that I would do. I had to do it. But I tell you, it was the best thing that I ever got a chance to be a part of. And so, like I promised you guys, that regardless of where I stood in the general, I was going to try my best to interview each person. And so that's running. And there's 7 people that are running right now. Today, I have Mrs. Bravo. We chatted a couple of times during the primaries, got a chance to sit on a couple panels with her. And so I'm just glad to have her as the first person that I'm going to interview for this particular series. So without taking any more of your time, I'm going to allow Ms. Bravo to introduce
Hi,
herself.
first off, thank you, of course, for giving me this opportunity. It's so hard to meet voters, and this is a crucial time. So I am grateful for anybody and everybody trying to get voter information out there. So my name is Ysela Bravo, and I am running for Board of Education. I have lived here in Mount Airy for over 15 years now. I moved here because of education. I was living in Los Angeles and my husband got a job offer and he said, "Do you want to go to Maryland?" And I went, "Huh?" And I looked it up and it was like Maryland was #1 in education. And I said, "We're leaving." And I left everything behind and we came here because of it. And I have never regretted the decision. I love Frederick and I love the schools that my kids went to. They went to Newmarket Elementary. It became our second home. I volunteered all the time, president of the PTA, treasurer of the PTA. I did substitute teaching. I did substitute teaching for special education as well. It just, I'm so blessed for having been able to have my kids go through the education system and they went through different programs. My background is in human resources, and I was a human resources manager in Los Angeles, moved here. I'm now human resources manager for the Asian American Center of Frederick. And I work with the community and trying to get assistance to the community. And that's kind of my spiel
And
right
I,
now.
I, I represent the moderate voter in my perspective and how I'm going about asking my questions. And so, with that being said, a lot of people, a lot of the supporters that I have, they talk about the extremes, the blue against the red. And sometimes the moderate and the independent that kind of pushes them away. What's your philosophy on the moderate and the independent, the people that just don't really choose a strong side? Why would they want to vote for you?
Because I listen. I can have extremely progressive ideals because I believe in change, and I think there's a lot of things that don't work. And when I see it not working for everybody, I definitely want to bring a voice to that and get help for everybody. And the system should work for everybody. Um, but I realize at the same time that it's like a big ship. If you turn it too quick, you're going to lose half of the people and they're going to go overboard, right? You can't do that. And if I, as a progressive person, I can say, here's my goal, and here are small steps to get there. And I can say, trust me here. And if it doesn't work, we can readjust. But we have to earn trust in order to get progressive ideals. When I say I believe in diverse thoughts, I truly mean that, meaning I do want conservative input. We need all input in order to make it work for everybody.
What if the far right side just is to the point where they're just discounting all 4 of you as a group because you guys represent the left side? What would you say to speak to those populations that probably are just not listening to you because of just your affiliation, period? What would you say to them?
Well, if they're not listening to me, that's hard to tell them anything.
But what if they had to listen
What
to
would be
you?
my message would be, I- I'm open and talking, and I'm open to listening, and I may not agree. There's going to be a million things that we're not going to agree on, but taking care of our kids and our happiness of our kids, I can honestly say is a common goal. And there is some. I have agreed with the most conservative of people on some issues. And if we can find those issues, we can maybe earn trust to working on the
I was
bigger
looking through
issues.
your website and I noticed that you had a lot of endorsements. You have a long line of endorsements. I was like, good for her, you know. But at the very top, I think that the Apple ballot has been the one of the largest endorsements when it comes to the Board of Education. So how would you use that Apple ballot endorsement but still look at all of the needs that every student will need to have or every person in the community? Do you think that the Apple ballot is going to hurt you or do you think
Well,
it's
the
helping
Apple
you?
ballot is an endorsement from teachers, administrators, and from the support staff. They put us in a room, they ask us questions, and they want to find out what our overall views are. Do they ask us how we're going to vote? No.
Okay.
um, they are rolling the dice and hoping that we have some of the same ideals to get us to the same vision. It is no different from when there were police unions who endorse county officials, fire, our fire saver, our firefighters who also endorse, county officials. They endorse people who they believe are going to support them overall and help them do their jobs. And so I'm very proud of my endorsement. And so while I understand it's union based, and I get that worry, again, I'm not signing, nobody made me sign anything in blood. And I have human resources management experience. When I worked at ITT Systems in Los Angeles, I actually sat at the table as management. And so I negotiated the union contract. So there is no assumption on anybody's part that I'm just going to go, yay, whatever they say, let's just go ahead. That's not how it works. There has to be thought about it. But do we have the same vision of good schools and teachers that are supported? Yes. And I'm proud of that.
What are, and I'll let you speak, what are some of your major goals that you want to fulfill if you made it on the
I
BOE?
would love to see a more more progressive changes in how we recruit and how we retain our personnel. We need to be able to get people to come back to Frederick. And obviously, we're working with that in salaries and we have budgets to deal with. But I think if we could get to a place where had some great recruiting ideas and recruiting cool tools, I would love for Frederick County to be a place where people wanted to work. That to me would be a high goal to make FCPS, just maybe not the highest salaries, but so good to their teachers that teachers want to stay there and teachers want to come here. And Other goals obviously are to do everything we can to try to manage our budgets so that we need to advocate so that we can get the money to do everything that everybody wants and our children deserve. We all want smaller class sizes, but smaller class sizes means more schoolrooms, means more teachers, means there's so many costs to these things. So part of my job is going to be advocating so that we can get funds so that we can support our schools better and support the children better. Something else I really think is necessary, communication. Our communication from FCPS, I wouldn't rate it as high. I don't like to throw stones, but I, I hear it from teachers, I hear it from parents, I hear it from families, I hear it from everybody that there isn't enough communication and it's not direct. However, we do have a new superintendent. And when I looked at her resume, I was so excited because she has communications as a degree. And so, communications background, I think, is going to help immensely. We have a chief of staff for her. So I believe the communication is going to be so much more streamlined, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen with that. But those are things that I'm really keeping our eye on, the things like the Department of Justice and making sure we're watching steps and we're keeping an eye on the prize, right? And that is making sure that every child gets a fair education.
You know, the crazy
There's a
thing
lot.
is that right now there are so many positions of teachers needing to be filled every day. Like they can't even find enough
This is a
substitutes.
nationwide problem.
It's everywhere. So
Well, the
go ahead.
the pandemic did show that the caregiving jobs, period, because they were so we've been so rough on our caregivers, teachers, nurses, clergy are experiencing huge losses because we really took it out on our caregivers.
How are we going to combat that here in
Um,
Frederick County?
so there is good news out there. I've been listening to teachers who came back this year and said the kids coming back this year were so much more improved than they were the year before. Which obviously helps their day, right? So how do we retain them? How do we keep them? We make it better for them. These are people who want to do their jobs. These are people who are like, I went to school and took out school loans so that I could do this. And they're so sad with the way they're being treated, and they're overloaded and they're overworked. We need to look at all of that and figure out a way to do it, and figure out a way to do it on a tight budget.
One of the things that I've been truly concerned about is racism. We've kind of talked about it. I did a whole little series on Middletown when that all went about. Here we just are going through it again. It hit the news that a young man out of TJ said some very
Mhm.
negative things. Do you think that the school is doing enough to truly handle racism on the spectrum that it's hitting at right now?
Well, that's a really tough question, right? Because the school is this huge conglomeration.
Yeah.
So, are there certain administrators who are handling it better than other administrators? Definitely.
Okay.
The school as a whole, would you give it a good rating? Oh no. But to say nobody's doing anything, I'd say, well, there are some places that are really working, and that are trying to do what they can. We have the young group that just started, a Students Alliance Against Racism, and they basically want to pass it through all of the schools. So we have students coming up and helping to combat it. Um, Something that I go back to, and I'll go back to my communication thing. We need to get the families more involved, have the families come together more. Um, I know families, and I know women who are Black who don't go to their schools because they don't know anybody, and they feel uncomfortable, and they feel like they stick out. And we're losing parents that way. We're losing family participation. And it goes against our community rules, right? So we need to figure out, what is it? Do we offer daycare at some of our meetings? Do we offer, free dinners for the kids at some of our meetings? There's got to be a way to get us back into a community and get us back into accepting each other, because I feel like everybody just sort of separated and got into their little computers and or with people that agree with themselves, with only them. And you got to have a different you got to have perspective, and that's what makes it a better place if we allow ourselves
Well,
different
one of the
perspectives.
topics that really was dear to my heart, and I hope that it was dear to yours, is trying to get Latinos more involved in the mental health, because there is a big shortage in
I'll tell you
Frederick
right now,
County.
being able to communicate in a person's language and that's something I've gotten such a rich experience with at Asian American Center of Frederick, is being able to do that. And it's a wealth to everybody, right? And people can speak English fine, but when you can get into their native tongue, you find out so much more information. And they can become so much more involved. Um, but the mental health and Latino community is extremely discerning. I mean, you have the machismo thing, but you also have children of immigrants. And children of immigrants will always think, well, it's not as bad as my mom and dad had it. And so you've got a compunction where they even, they just put it even way down because, well, dad had to go through so much worse. So I've got it good. I can't complain. And so, yeah, anything we can do to reach the community, all communities, we have all these little pockets of communities, and we need to figure out a way to reach everybody and get them involved.
And this is an important one that's been on the table is the LGBTQ community. A lot of people are saying that this election is primarily coming down to that one specific topic. And what would you say to those people who are standing on the outside looking into this conversation? How do you guys, and we're just going to be honest, there's a on one side there's more for and helping out, and there's another side that is kind of looking at this like we're putting too much effort into it. So what would you say to just people as a whole in looking at how do we need to look at LGBTQ whenever we go vote in this particular race, because schools are getting hit the biggest in needing change or reform? What would you say?
I'm trying to, and bringing it down to just that issue. My first thought is, as schools, I don't believe schools are there to judge children, to say, no, you're wrong, in manners of how they appear or how they, there are certain guidelines, yes. But if a, when a person is going through their own personal changes, I don't think the school should be involved in telling them what it is that they should be doing, so to speak. And so I will always think that we need to be gentle with children and gentle with our students, right? Um, Regarding the issue of if we're pushing it too much or not, I think we often talk about parents who say, but I'm going to teach this to my kids at home, so I've got it, and that's wonderful. I applaud that. I really do. I'm one of those kids who grew up with a dad who was racist and homophobic. Luckily, I didn't come out spouting this stuff, but I sure as heck heard it from Edward next door, and I sure as heard it from Shirley next door. And so going to a place where somebody would have said, two mommies are okay, that would have been good for a child like me. Going to, my first teacher she was in first grade. She was Black. Mrs. Howard, loved her so much. I went to her home once and I never went back. And I'm sure it's because my father found out and never let me go back. And so, I think of those stories or my own experience. And so when I hear this and I'm thinking, what we have these very adult guidelines that is used to speak to things about adults. And that's what these guidelines from the state are. And then they are filtered through committees and parents and educators so that we use appropriate language for children that comes out just, hey, they're fine. They're fine. It's all a family. Let's just play together. And that to me is a good message. And we have to think of those people who don't have someone at home saying we love everyone. Let's think about
one
them.
last thing, because you brought up something that made me think. What about the children that are, black and brown skin
Mhm.
that feel that the teachers aren't for them? And the reason why I said that is I had a young black lady that was in my class at the Mount St. Mary's, and she felt that the counselors wasn't really advocating for her to go to college. They just kind of were like, well, you might can go take certification class or go to a junior college. What are you going to do about those students who feel like the school system is not for them?
I can't do anything for those students per se, other than say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I can still remember when I was 16 years old in chemistry class, I was getting about a C average classes, and I just didn't really want to try hard in the class. And the teacher heard me talking, and I mentioned that I was getting an awful lot of college interest, and I said, maybe because of my grades, my hand, and because I happen to be Mexican. And he walked by and he said, "Oh, so you're using your handicap to get in?" And I went, I don't consider being Mexican a handicap. And the next day I came back, I aced this test and I aced everything. And I'm like, don't, so I understand. My hope is in our recruiting efforts, we will have a more diverse staff and a more diverse administration. Studies prove that students who are able to see themselves in positions of leadership are able to, uh, see themselves grow better. It gives them places to grow into. It also gives the whole community more to think about, and it helps administrators or teachers who may not understand what they're doing be able to view their actions a little differently. And that's really what diversity does, right? It opens your perspective. I mean, I'm an LA girl from California, and I came here to Mount Airy, Maryland, and learned about all these fruits and vegetables and that I'd never seen over there, and trees that I've never seen before. And that's all a diversity of thought, and I'm a better person for it.
So, as your last thing that you want to express to the population, anybody that would watch this video, what would you want to end with? In Board of Education's 1 month away, the election.
I care, and I'm methodical, and I'm pretty set on goals, and I really try to do what I say I'm going to do. And so I hope you vote for me because I will work hard for our kids. I will listen. Even people who don't agree with me will tend to say they do feel heard, and that's really what I want to do, is be able to listen and be able to act based on input. So I'm going to welcome communication, and I hope you vote for me.
Hey, guys, you have just listened to Miss Bravo, and she is one of the 7. It's going to be only 4 people can go through after this vote. And so she wants to be one of your votes along with any other 3 that you want to pick. But for her, this is what she stands for. Make sure that you subscribe if you want to see the rest of them, and make sure that you talk, make sure that you communicate, because this election is going to be a very important election for the next 4 years. Thank you for listening. Take it easy.